So I put some inside traits and outside traits, and then 5 things that I like about myself, and all about me pages. As you can see, that one is just all about like you. And the next one's my wigs, so it's all of your wildly fun goals, which we're gonna get into that later. And then Spontus and Fennell, map goals. And then the next one is my learning. So it's like all kinds of stuff. So there's multiplication. This is like a worksheet that I did and all my answers. And then the next one's my leadership. So then it shows everything you've done as a leader. So this one we're going to get into talking about later, but it's an application for classroom leadership roles. And then my celebrations. This one's Blue STEM Books, which you probably know about. It's where you take books and then you get the quizzes and see if you can get them right. And this one is the math homework competition. See if you can fill it. And this is a tab for 2021 and 22. So that's it.
So when we use our data binders, we are, as Harper said, we are doing our wildly important goals, our learning, our self, and when we do that, we are keeping our data in there about what we are supposed to learn, and we're keeping that in there for important things in the future.
I'm here to talk about leadership roles. Different leadership roles in our school are like leadership clubs, leadership jobs. For example, in my class, we have leadership jobs, so we had to apply for them, and if we got the job, then we would help around in the classroom, and leadership jobs help students gain independence, and it helps them be a better student every day of their life.
+20 roles. So that is like leadership roles that we have throughout the school. Every student in the school has like a leadership job, and some of the leadership jobs in there are like secretary and custodian and like bathroom checker and all kinds of other ones. But my job in my classroom is the electrician, and what I do is like in the mornings I'll turn on all the lamps in our classroom, and then in the evenings I'll turn off all the lamps in the classroom. But like the past years, I had also other fun jobs, and there were also other fun jobs to do last year. So, yeah.
So mine is about wigs. Everybody has a different wig, and everybody has a different wig measure. Say Harper, for example, last year she had 5 units on Lexia, and say I would have 6 units on Lexia. Our classroom So, as Dewey said, everybody's got a different job, and Kinley's job is to put our Lexia and exact path names up to make sure Miss McCoy knows that we've done it. Grade levels is basically by Mrs. Rader's room, you would have seen a Candyland, and it would have said if they had 20 or 30 to keep track of which class had made their goal. School-wide, as you saw by the teacher parent waiting area,
there was a yellow brick road, and that is to keep track of our lead measures. As I said earlier, Harper had a different lead measure than me, so we would keep track of our lead measures. So 36 plus classrooms in Williams Elementary School set goals on a weekly basis and track them throughout the week to see if they achieve their goal. So let's say I achieved the goal of 5 units in Lexia and I wanted to track it. I'd set like a goal for myself and then I'd check it along the week to see if I got it or not by the end of the week. Hi, I'm Hank, and I'm talking to you about projects. So at Williams, we get to do projects that a lot of other schools don't get to do, and one is a podcast. So we go upstairs in the attic every month, and there's a podcast. And there's a podcast that we do about the habits, and it tells us about the habit, and it's on Spotify, and we tell them about the habits and how the habits can help you in your everyday life, and it just digs deeper on what they mean and how you can apply them to your everyday life. Another one is we do book buddies, so every day we go down to first grade and we get to read the first grade, and that's all.
Thank you so much for your time. Does anyone here have any questions?
Hi. So thank you guys. I would like to know if Lainey would explain the application process for the job. So she told me up here, but I think it's really interesting if she would do that.
You apply by saying the 3 jobs you would want, and you would have to give a reason for each of the jobs you wanted, and you would use like why you wanted that job, and you would just wait until you got the job, and then whatever job you got, you would do that job to help everyone in your classroom.
Does anybody else have any more questions? Okay, so Lexia is kind of like this reading thing. So you can complete like 5 or however many units you want to complete a week. And so like you have to like find and pick and choose like the answer, and then whatever kind of tab you kind of do, then you get a unit. Does anyone else have any more questions? Okay.
I don't have a question. I want to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
To the teachers who have helped with this and for the presenters. As you were talking, I was thinking back to my 5th grade class and whether or not a teacher could have been able to find 10 of us who could get up and talk so articulately about your goals like you have done. That absolutely couldn't have happened. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for coming. If you look back there are parking lot questions, so we'd love to answer any of your questions or feedback you'd have to our school or to help us learn better. You can just jot it down and stick it over there and place the sticky note. And the parking lot questions are there. And we will get back to you as soon as possible. Also, there's lifesavers back there, and you can help yourself. Thank you.
All right, agenda item 2.1B, recognition of Bionic student scholarships. We have Josh Norman, Vice President for Enrollment Management from Eastern Illinois University with us. Josh, welcome. I'm gonna just hand it over to you.
Awesome. I just want to say, Mattoon School District is such an inspiration. I mean, walking into Williams Elementary with Charlie and Kylie so confidently giving me a tour, and as I'm asking them, well, how did that get on the ceiling? I'm like, you have giants that are enrolled at this institution? And they're like, no, I think they used a ladder. I just love it. I just ate it up. I mean, if Mattoon School Board meetings are this fun, I'm going to join you for every one. But it's also inspiring as I think about early in the morning during the summer, just dozens of your high school students on Eastern's campus in Buzzard Hall getting ready to be equipped for a program called Bionic, which stands for Believe It or Not, I Care. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I thought about my 18-year-old self and how there would be no way that during the summer I would have gotten out of bed to be lectured to be equipped, to be trained. But these individuals have such incredible hearts for their peers. And I think about myself as a transfer student in the 8th grade, entering Charleston High School, and after changing 6 schools, how much that would have had an impact on me. I just love this program. And that's why we have a program just like it now at Eastern Illinois University, in much thanks to Dr. Larson, called Freshman Connection and Transfer Connection, where our new students are coming in and they're making that high school to college transition, and there are peers to support them. And so this program just really inspires me, and we are so fortunate to recognize 2 of those awesome mentors who are going to give this next year to help their peers have their best chance for success, their best chance to develop social belonging, their best chance to fit in and thrive. And so I want to go ahead and welcome up here Noah Noble and Michaela Chasteen. If you could both come on up.
Okay.
So serving the Mattoon Bionic program, it started 11 years ago, but it's really 5 graduate students who are the backbone to the program, who run all the teams, they help do the leadership training at EIU, and they are their mentor and support at school. Collectively, between the 5 of them, they each work 20 hours a week at the high school. They have multiple roles seeing students, but these 5 students help Bionic each and every day. And so if we could just recognize 4 of them are able to make it tonight. So Ethan, if you want to come on up, Danny, Rebecca, and Anna. Thank you. And as an honorary guest, Corbin Roth, who now is the school counselor here at Williams, was one of the interns last year. So we're glad he was part of our team.
Thank you very much, Heidi, and thank you to you 4 for your service. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Non-agenda visitors, that's item 2.1C. I have in my hands 3 public participation slips. I'll call them in alphabetical order. I will ask the commenters to try to keep their comments to the neighborhood of 3 minutes. This isn't the Gong Show, we don't have a gong. We won't, hammer you down, but we've got some business to do tonight, so I'm gonna start with April Evelyn. Oh, there she is.
Hi, my name is April Evelyn, and my son is a junior at the Mattoon High School. September of 2021, he was a 7-year state wrestling, he went to state 7 years in a row for wrestling. He did football, he was a great student. He was being picked on and decided to react by getting in a fight. After that fight, he got a 5-day suspension. I sent him back after the 5-day suspension. And this is all to do with the disciplinary I see from the August 8th meeting. I just wanted to bring to your attention that it does need attention. He was told to leave the property after the 5-day suspension and call me from the parking lot, my 14-year-old son. He called me, I asked him what was going on, and he said he didn't know, they told him to leave. So I called Mr. Schaefer, who was the assistant principal at the time, and he told me he was gonna let me know, but they decided to send him to Bridges as an expulsion eligible child, whatever that may be. He said we would get together and have a meeting. So we met at Bridges. He said he's not expelled, he would do his sports still, but because of the fight, there is a Senate law that doesn't have all the students having the same disciplinary. So I met with them. I agreed to that as long as he could still go and do his sports, because he was good at it. He made a bad decision. He didn't need to be crucified for it. Anyway, I asked to talk to the principal or someone higher up. I was told I couldn't do anything. Their hands were tied because the decision had been made. So again, they told me he wasn't expelled. Mr. Caladrilla at the Bridges, he called to see if he could attend football and his wrestling to sign him up for the 2021 year. We were told no, he's not allowed on the property. We both asked why he wasn't expelled. We were told he wasn't expelled. And then they said, yes, he's expelled until 9 of 2023. So again, I requested to speak to someone higher. I was redirected to the assistant principal and told that it was their job and that everybody has a job. So the assistant principals at the high school are in charge of the alternative schooling. I went in for a work permit for my son. I was approached by the new assistant principal. Her arms crossed, didn't say who she was, just came in the room. I could tell by her body language she wasn't happy. And I asked her if I could help her. Looked right past me, didn't address me, didn't say anything. She looked at my son and told him that she was the assistant principal and that he was not allowed on the property. He needed to leave. And I stepped in front of him and I told her, we've never been told that from the beginning. But all of a sudden, all these administrators keep saying that he's expelled. So I asked her to go to the car, and I finished getting his work permit. And I spoke to her and asked her where everything changed. And she told me that they are the new administration, so the decision has been made that he is expelled. Expulsion has to go in front of the board and be approved by the board, per your handbook. I contacted a board member after the 8-8 meeting, finally got a meeting with the principal 2 years later. And I was told as soon as I walked in the room, I don't know what you think, or I don't know why you think your son is expelled. He has never been expelled. And so I went through all of the things I just told you, and I'm gonna cry because this has been a battle for 2 years. So I asked him, I said, I've been asked to leave. My son has been kicked out of this school, off the property. He could not join his sports. Bridges has pushed and pushed and pushed. The principal, the teachers, we called, we requested him to be signed up for his sports. They denied him, said he was expelled. The assistant principal made us leave the property, said he was expelled. Every administrator in the high school had this thought in their head that he was expelled. But I finally get a meeting with the principal, and he's not expelled. My son has been put through the ringer, but the only good to come out of this is Bridges. He is 5 credits ahead of any of the juniors at Mattoon High School. I asked why I couldn't have a meeting with him for 2 years, and was told again that everybody has a job, and that he wanted to meet with me to let me know it wouldn't be on my son's college information, and he was taking notes to show he cared. And when he was done, he had to go supervise the lunch. I just got thrown around. Anyways, I asked him why everyone in the administration thought he was expelled, and he said, I apologize for the miscommunication. But that's really all it was. And I said, so no documents. Bridges only has 1 handwritten paper on file, handwritten, about the incident, the fight, and it says expulsion eligible. I was told by some of the administrators at Bridges to make sure I bring that word up, because Mattoon High School is the only school that uses it to send students to their alternative program, and then they get treated like this.
Ms. Elam, I apologize.
No,
We're
that's
well over the 3 minutes. Can you try and bring it in for a landing?
yes. But anyway, I did ask why he wasn't offered flex program, whatnot, and he said, again, the Senate law states that kids cannot have the same punishment. I don't know why, I don't understand. I still did not get an answer. All I got was a miscommunication. But my son, you know, he lost his wrestling, his football, his peers, his relationship, emotional distress. It's been a nightmare. But I really ask that you look into this and all the disciplinary at the high school, because I do know of other students that are going through this problem. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that it is not sugar-coated there. It really is a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker, Angela, I apologize. Adolny?
It's okay. She was gonna give me her 3 minutes if I went over,
Oh,
but so you can skip that one.
okay, she's not, okay. Next, Johnny Cantorin? What's that?
I think she said it all.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a quick question? So there is a policy and procedure that's laid out of how expulsion or suspend.
Okay, item 3, consent agenda, board action. 3.1, approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of August 8th. Payment of bill, 3.2, payment of bills. We have the bills for approval. Item 3.3, approval of Mattoon High School Girls Golf Regional and Sectional Tournaments to September 28th, 29th, and October 2nd and 3rd. Item 3.4, approval of Mattoon High School Skills USA LEAD Conference October 19th through the 21st in Peoria. Item 3.5, approval of Mattoon High School JROTC trip to the Ozark Shootout Classic. That's October 27th and 28th in Ozark, Missouri. 3.6, approval of Mattoon High School FFA trip to FFA National Convention November 1st through the 4th in Indianapolis. Item 3.7, approval of Mattoon High School FFA trip to FFA Build Conference November 20th and 21st in Normal. Item 3.8, approval of Mattoon High School JROTC trip to Ozark High School, meet on December 8th and 9th. 3.9, approval of Mattoon High School Drama Club trip to the Illinois High School Theater Festival, January 11th through the 13th in Bloomington. Item 3.2, approval of Mattoon High School FFA trip to FFA Ground Zero Conference, January 26th and 27th. I should have been an FAA. Item 3.11, approval of Mattoon High School chess team to attend the IHSA State Chess Tournament, February 8th through the 10th in Peoria. And item 3.12, the enrollment report, and the last item on the consent agenda, 3.13, approval of the Freedom of Information report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Motion from Ashley, a second? Second from Erica. Callie, can you call the roll, please?
Larson,
Discussion.
I'm sorry, yes.
So last month, you mentioned that you sent an email to the board, and I asked Tim.
That has
discussion
nothing to
in
do with the
the
consent
minutes.
agenda.
Yeah. Are we not looking for the approval of the minute?
Okay, you want to correct the minutes?
Yes.
What correction do you want to make?
I want to take out that Erica hadn't shared a question. When I asked Tim Condren, if there was a question, she said yes. So that wasn't, that's not accurate.
It's not accurate that she said
It is
it.
accurate.
It's accurate that
It
she
is
said it.
accurate. I said, I sent him a question and that was shared. That was accurate.
So I have an email when I asked Wednesday
The
morning.
statement was accurate.
So when I asked Wednesday morning for a copy of the email with your question that you said you asked and shared with the board, I said I would like a copy of that. And Tim's response right here is, I do not have an email from Erica that I replied to and shared with board members. So I just don't want the minutes to reflect that you did in fact ask the question that was shared with the board.
I did, and it was shared.
Yeah,
My question was sent to the board president. It was sent out to you, and the reason that you didn't know that is because, as I stated in the minutes, it never is sent and says, this board member had a question. It is sent and it says, a board member had a question, or this question came up. My question was presented, and you could have talked to me about that if you needed clarification if you didn't. So the minutes are accurate.
so it's my understanding that the minutes are a recording of what was said at the meeting, right? So that's what she said at the meeting. So the minutes record that, reflect that, right? They reflect that she said that, right?
Correct.
So their minutes are not inaccurate then. So,
But Tim, can you clarify, did you receive an email from
well,
Erica?
no, we're not going to dig into that. With all due respect, we're in the middle of the consent agenda, okay? We want to have that conversation at some point. We can have that conversation at some point. We've already had it, actually. So we have a motion and we have a second with regards to approval of the consent agenda. Do we have any other conversation?
Can I add one thing? If I would like to share an objection that I did not share at the last, about how outside curriculum will be communicated. I don't say a lot during these meetings. I like to take in the information, but I feel that we are going a little bit towards meddling in the teacher's business. And quite frankly, I'm not okay with that. I'm not. Our staff has a hard enough job. They get a classroom full of 30 kids. They get, these kids come from different economic backgrounds. They come from different financial situations. They come from different education levels. And we expect one teacher to go in there and teach all 30, 25, 30, whatever the number is. And I did not say it last month, but I feel like at times we have meddled in the curriculum. And quite frankly,
Is this part of the consent
Uh,
agenda?
Excuse me, that's my job, sir, not yours.
You're gonna do it?
Sir,
You're gonna do it?
I'm
okay,
sharing.
I'm
my
trying to
question.
figure out what he's saying, and the moment that I determine that he's not talking about something on the consent agenda, I will say something, okay? That's my job, not yours, but thank you.
So you work for the taxpayer.
I want to share an objection that I feel like we are meddling, and I want to make that known.
Okay. Okay, any other comments about the consent agenda, please? Okay, Callie, call it.
Larson? Abstain. Overton? Yes. Weaver? Yes. Hedges?
Yes.
Headley?
Yes.
Armstrong? Ryder?
Yes. Item 4, reports and recommendations of the business manager. Mr. Gear.
I'll be good, Dave. Not turn up. Yes. All right, thank you. You gonna run that for me, Dave?
Sir.
Thank you. All right, 4.1, conduct a public hearing concerning the adoption of the fiscal year 2024 budget. Northern Mattoon Community School District number 2. So in the budget that I presented to you and is in your packet, and it will be on the slideshow, the fiscal year 24 budget, which we started on July 1st, what we approved today. We'll have revenues that total $50.671 million. The budget will have expenses that are a little over $2 million. So the proposed budget will be in the black, positive balance of $454,985. We're being conservative with our revenues, and we're trying to be aggressive with our expenses. A lot of unknowns as we go forward through the whole school year with lots of moving parts and very large budgets. That's the revenues and the expenses. Next one. This is broken up by fund, so we have 9 funds. We do 7 of the 9 funds in our budgeting. Education fund, which is where the majority of the money goes. It's where the majority of our salaries are paid. Revenues are $39.1 million. Expenses just over $39 million. We have a positive balance in each of 7 funds that we use. Operation and maintenance, $3.389 million with our revenue and $3.344 with our expenses. Debt service, this is to pay off our debt certificate and bond. Over $2.3 million for both. Transportation, which is our busing service, $2.7 million in revenue, $2.6 in expenses. IMRF and Social Security, revenues 1.9 and expenses 1.7. Capital projects, these will all be done with our sales tax money. We're projecting around 1.1 million in revenue for our sales tax money. Projects throughout the district. With those, and then our life safety is one we levy for a very small amount, so $16,964 for our revenue and $15,000 for our expenses. Again, totals are at the bottom for our revenues and for our expenses, and again in the black, $454,905. All right, any questions?
Questions from the board for Mr. Gear.
So last year's budget was $55,372,000. Where do we save that money?
A lot of it's in capital projects. At the high school, when we did the building projects on the construction, on the athletic fields and the ag room and the wood shop and those things, lift. Even though a lot of the projects were finishing up earlier than that, we were still paying bills. We had punch lists that were still going on last year that we were finishing up and paying some remaining bills. So that's the biggest one. That's probably the biggest project.
And Ryan, what kind of document or evidence do you put?
Oh, okay, so I have, it's called 5036 form. So I enter all my data into Skyward, which is our software program that we use for our business department. It runs a report. It's a state report that will go on our school website. Submit that to the state, to ISB, and got several different steps to it. To justify where we're using our evidence-based funding from the state, our new tier 1 money that we get.
Is there a reason as a board member we get that form, that spreadsheet?
No, This is my first one of these, so I look back at what we did in previous board meetings and the previous 2 board meetings. This is what was presented, so I kind of went along with that. And in the future, we can present more.
I just feel like as a board member, which is why I said you, that getting 2 PowerPoint slides over the overarching budget, it doesn't feel ethical for me to manage taxpayer dollars accurately. So when we look at how much money is broken in each of the funds, when I look at the spreadsheet, there are past 36 forms on our website, not for the last years. Is there a reason we changed the report? Because we have a full document online, 2009.
So the 5036 is required by state code to be put on our district website after it's been approved, so that's probably why it's located. So it's not completed yet until the board approves the budget. Ryan sends that to the state.
I don't want to speak for anyone else, but there's a signature page that has my name that is submitted that says you approve this. And when I look at being on the St. John School Board for 6 years, we have an itemized budget. When I talk to people on local boards, there's itemized budget. How much is for utilities? How much is for personnel? How much is for administration? How much is for teachers? And that's why I sent the email. I would like more information. I used to get thousands of pages. I don't want that. You don't want to give me that. But it doesn't feel ethical to me to be voting on a budget that I have no idea how you're spending as a district on any of those funds in any detail. And
Okay, going further, I'll give more. The last 2 budgets, you have voted yes on the same 2 slides, so you have the last 2 years voted yes for the budget.
And I think like part of us as a district, right? You learn and you do better, and there's a lot to learn as a school board member. There is a ton. But I'm doing my due diligence. I'm looking, here's the document that says the mechanics of a school district budget and what we are supposed to do as board members. And it's saying, for example, you shouldn't spend more than 5% for administration. I would have no idea if we did that. So I want to understand the fiscal part of the budget. I want to know that more. It may not be everybody's interest, but having that detail, we look at what's the oath of a board member. Number 2 is that one or two is you're gonna do. That's the responsibility.
That email did go back to you Tuesday and said if you have any more questions or would like to see more, reach out. Tonight's the first I've heard this since that email last.
Yes, because I'm shocked that this is all board members would get is PowerPoint slides.
So we had 6 days for you to ask for more.
If I may, Mr. Gear, before you commit to sending me emails, that's actually one of our standard operating procedures. So the board would need to discuss what we would request that you send. So we're not going to ask you to make any additional commitments tonight because just as you noted, you've been available to answer those questions, but the board is going to discuss standard operating procedures for additional requests.
So are you saying as a board member, if I want more information, the board in general is going to decide that?
We are going to discuss standard operating procedures, but you've already said that it's been available because you reached out to them, correct?
You got my email. I sent it to all of you.
I don't know what email was yours. I'm not going to debate that with you.
So I
know
just
you want to
said-
stick on that.
So the
We have
email
the
was,
ability to get the information if we so need it.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from the board?
If I may interject, I think we kind of flew over the first 4.1, which is
Yeah, back to
conduct a board
4.1 and have
hearing.
that approved.
Yeah,
before we move
so
on.
there needs to be board action to enter into the public hearing, and then Ryan would explain the budget like he did in 4. See, action. Yes, yeah.
That's on me. I'll entertain a motion to conduct the public hearing on the fiscal 24 budget.
motion.
From Erica, second from Ashley. Roll call from Cal.
Larson,
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Headley,
Yes.
Armstrong, Ryder.
Yes. My apologies, I would agree with that. Right over. So.
All right, now we need board action to approve the fiscal year 2024 budget. District Bowles, Cumberland, Moultrie, and Shelby counties. It is recommended that the board approve the presented budget.
Motion. Second.
Motion to approve the fiscal 24 budget by Ashley, second by Erica. Any other conversation amongst the board? I will say, not to prolong this, I've had questions that had to do with delving deeper into numbers than what board members were initially provided. I've never had any problem getting it. So I just think of there, from my view, there's a little self-help here. For me, I don't want to have a debate about it. I'm telling everyone here, that's what I do, and I'm thanking the administration.
And here's my response to Dale, that I'm a board member, and I feel like the administration's job is to inform me so that I can vote ethically and responsibly. To set up extra meetings to meet with people to get information, exactly why I sent the email. Is this all the information as a board member I will receive? And when the answer was yes, I feel like, just like other boards I serve on, we can look at other local boards in this town. This isn't the budget they receive. They do not receive, and we are talking about $50 million. So I feel that as a board member, that I should receive enough information ethically and to understand the spending of this $50 million.
Point was well made and understood. Kelly, you want to call the roll?
Overton? Yes. Weaver?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Heffley?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Larson?
Staying.
Fryer?
Yes.
4.3, board action to apply for and submit the ISB school maintenance project grant. We did something this similar last year, and we got $50,000 last year. It's a $50,000 match. We used it in last year's budget to plan, and we're going to use it still to pay for the flooring at Riddle and Williams. Had some delays on those, but those projects are still in order, and we still use that money going forward to pay for this. This is a second round of grants from the state. It's the same thing. It's exclusively for maintenance and upkeep of buildings or structures. It's a match. The district would have to pay $50,000 for the project, and then we get a $50,000 match from the state. We're going to try to offset some of the costs for the drive-it. We talked about this. We approved last board meeting the drive-it at Riddle and at the high school. And we said then we're going to come back to you because we're probably going to want to do the middle school and Williams Elementary. Hopefully, you've had a chance to go by the schools and see the necessity of this. So the proposed cost, based on what we found out on the last two, is probably around $200,000. So this could save us 25% of that going forward. And this would probably be planned for next summer, going into fall. This is an 8 grant can last up to 18. We shouldn't have any trouble spending it. So I need approval to apply for this grant. So we're asking the board to approve this grant opportunity.
Motion to apply for the ISBE school maintenance project grant. John Hedges, motion, second. Yes. Second, Gary Kepley. Kelly?
Weaver? Yes. Hedges?
Yes.
Heffley?
Yes.
Armstrong? Larson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Fryer?
Yes.
Moving on. Last couple weeks ago, when it was really, really warm, we had a chiller go down here at Williams. We knew it was probably going to happen eventually because we replaced the chiller at Riddle 2 years ago. The buildings were built at the exact same time. And usually things like that happen. So it did start to break down. Talked to Dustin, who talked to his maintenance team and some other companies that are involved in this sort of thing. And it seems like we're just going to keep putting Band-Aids on it as we go forward. So we would like to just get bids and see where we're at. This is not guaranteeing that we have to purchase it, but we want to go out to get bids because just like everything, the longer you wait, the more expensive things are getting with inflation. So probably, or we would definitely want to include this in our 23-24 ESSERS free federal grant, which expires at the end of this coming year, next September. The ESSER grant does allow for some maintenance projects, especially air quality and HVAC type of things. So this would definitely fall under the grant. So the recommendation is to have board approval to seek bids so that the chiller can be purchased and replaced here at Williams Elementary.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to allow the administration to solicit bids to replace the Williams Elementary School chiller. Motion from Erica, second from John Hedges. Kelly?
Hedges?
Yes.
Heffley?
Yes.
Armstrong? Larson?
Yes.
Overton? Yes. Weaver?
Yes.
Fryer?
Yes.
All right, the rest I'm going to ask you to accept some money. So these are more fun. First one is an anonymous donation to the Lift Building for $1,500 for scholarships. So I recommend the board approves a $1,500 anonymous donation.
Motion to accept the $1,500 anonymous donation to Lyft. Gary, motion, second, Erica, Kelly?
Kathleen?
Yes.
Armstrong? Larson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Weaver? Yes. Hedges?
Yes.
Ryder?
Yes.
All right, board action to approve or accept a $5,000 donation to Lyft by First Mid Bank and Trust and for scholarships. We recommend that the board accept this donation.
I will entertain a motion to accept a $5,000 donation to Lyft from First Mid Bank and Trust.
Motion.
Ashley, the motion. John Hedges, second. Kelly?
Armstrong?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Ryder?
Yes.
Thank you. And the last one is to accept an $800 donation and 30 cases of bottled water for the Mattoon Food Pantry from Just Right. Again, we recommend that we accept this donation. Any donation over $500 has to be accepted by approved by. We do some and don't do others.
All righty, a motion to accept an $800 donation and 30 cases of bottled water to the MHS Food Pantry from Just Right Manufacturing. Erica, Ashley, seconds. Kelly?
Larson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Armstrong? Ryder?
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Item 5, reports and recommendations of the Assistant Superintendent for Personnel. Dr. Stosi.
Right, thank you. Board has before them the September personnel report. Certified resignations, i.e. retirements, most notably I want to go over, spend some time with Emily Hudson, retiring, Mattoon High School math teacher, effective at the end of the 26-27 year. At that time, she would have taught our students via elementary and high school for 20 years. Jody Molesky will retire as longtime elementary teacher, currently at Middle Elementary School, second grade, at the end of the 27-28 school year. At that time, she would have been teaching when she retires 30 years in our school district. Tim McQueen Wilson will be retired as Mattoon Middle School ag teacher, has taught at Mattoon Middle School since her career, I believe, and she'll be retiring at the end of the 23-24 school year after 34 years of service to our students at that time. Jennifer Muzzy, who I saw Miss Muzzy around here, our librarian, there you are. Here at Riddle Elementary School, the media specialist will be retiring at the end of the 27-28 school year. And at that time, Ms. Muzzy will have served our district for 30 years. Thank you. Appreciate that. Cheryl Rainwater, longtime educator in our system, Williams Elementary School, second grade teacher, will retire in the 27-28 school year. At that time, she will have served 27 years to our district. And lastly on this list, heartfelt Laura Blackberry Smith, Mrs. Smith, will retire in the 27-28 school year after 34 years. So thank you all. That's 180 years of teaching experience. Students are lucky. All right, as we continue to move forward, certified appointments, Denise Porter, substitute teacher, effective immediately, Melissa Potter, substitute teacher, effective immediately, and Kenneth Ruffner, substitute teacher, effective immediately. Sarah Smith, longtime teacher in our district, is subbing in our district, effective immediately as well, happy to have her back. And then classified resignation, Christina Cortez, Williams Elementary School supervisor, effective August 18th, 2023. Harris Bolton, Transportation Service Center bus aide, effective August 31st, 2023. Tricia Herman, resigning as Transportation Service Center bus driver, effective September 15th, 2023. Lisa Morris is retired as the Mattoon High School head cook, effective August 16th, 2023, and she had 27 years of service at that time. Carl Oakley is retiring as William Elementary School Buildings Security Supervisor, effective November 16th, 2023. Mr. Oakley also was a bus driver in our district, done a wonderful job after 9 years of service. Heather Sims is resigning as William Elementary School 11-month secretary, effective immediately. And we have some classified appointments. Ashley Booker, Riddle Elementary School paraprofessional, effective August 18th, 2023. Try to not chop this up. Melinda Dubjakowski. Here we go. is recommending her for hire as Mattoon High School paraprofessional effective immediately. Nangla Bain is Riddle Elementary School paraprofessional effective August 21st, 2023. Deborah Jenkins, Riddle Elementary School supervisor effective immediately. Rachel Meeker, Mattoon High School paraprofessional effective immediately. Heather Sims, Williams Elementary School supervisor effective immediately. Elizabeth Stever, Riddle Elementary School supervisor effective immediately. Don Sweeney, recommending him for hire as William Elementary School building security supervisor effective September 18, 2023. Rex Carter, recommending substitute supervisor effective immediately. And as we go down again, Christina Cotet, sub-secretary effective immediately. Stephen Chakowski, here we go. Recommending him as substitute custodian effective immediately. Kimberly Gross, substitute bus driver effective immediately. Tricia Herman, substitute bus driver effective immediately. Nicole Olson, substitute bus driver effective immediately. Travis Palmer, substitute bus driver effective immediately. Patrick Powers, who is a retired bus driver after 34 years of service in our district, substitute bus driver effective immediately. Kristen Boyer, recommended as volunteer, effective immediately. And then we have Mattoon High School volunteers. There's a lot of band volunteers that we have, and we're so grateful to have them. The supervisors, the rest of the classified appointments. Down. Extracurricular resignations, 5.1E. Matthew Butler resigned as Mattoon High School assistant track coach effective August 8, 2023. Anthony Huff resigned as freshman girls basketball coach effective immediately. Extracurricular assignments. Casey Alexander recommending as Mattoon High School junior varsity baseball coach effective immediately. And Jeremy Gibson recommending as Mattoon High School freshman sponsor effective immediately. Rounding up some class sponsors, Mary Harlan, Mattoon High School sophomore sponsor effective immediately. Chloe Pruitt, Mattoon High School freshman girls basketball coach effective immediately. Lastly, Veronica Wilson, Mattoon High School freshman sponsor effective immediately. Any questions? Seeing none, I recommend the board accept the September personnel report as presented.
Motion to accept the September personnel report as presented. Motion from Ashley, second from Erica Callie.
Overton? Yes. Weaver?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Kepley?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Ryder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, reports and recommendations of the superintendent.
Yes, this is just the presentation of the first review of the board policy revisions. There's no action expected on this, but you have received an electronic copy of those policies. Would encourage you to spend some time this next month reviewing those, and then we likely will come to seek action at the October meeting in order to then update those policies. Subsequently, after approval, we'll update the website. I have nothing further at this point other than encourage you to the policies, reach out if you have questions. Right. Item 7, reports and recommendations of other district personnel. Oh, there she is. Hello, Dr. Hill.
Well, we're only like 4 weeks into school, and our teachers have already been working on all kinds of great curricular updates, looking at data, making recommendations in math as well as science. And tonight, I'm coming to the board. There's no action. This is just a presentation on recommended updates to our math curricular sequence in honors math 1 and 2, and then in math 2 and 3. So I'm going to talk through that. The first time we talked about this was last May. And all of last school year, the math department was working on some revisions to content in our proficiency scales. It took all of the year, and then they continued working over the summer. So in May, we talked about what they wanted to do, and tonight we're able to share what actually was done. So starting just with a huge thank you to our teaching staff who's put in a lot of time and effort to make sure this is reflective of what they think would be best for our students. There are a lot of hyperlinks in the presentation because the board's going to have this month to review these things in detail, so you can look specifically at what the content for each of these scales look like. But the first link here is our current math curriculum map. So this, if you click on that, it'll take you to show you what we're currently doing. I'll just over slideshow mode. So the board's seen this before, but it's a good little refresher. this is the sequence, the current sequence of math learning in our entire district, starting at kindergarten and sequentially moving through content, the Illinois State Learning Standards, and our local curriculum all the way through high school math, the required high school courses. And so this is what we currently are working from. So you'll have this if you'd like to compare. I'm going to show you exactly what boxes we're recommending are changed or revised. Thank you. Oh yeah. I have it. The last spring, as I said, they continued working on some revisions to proficiency scales. So tonight, what I'm sharing are recommended updates to honors math 1 and 2, as well as traditional math 2 and 3. Again, there's no action requested. So I'm going to walk through what those recommendations. Okay. So honors math, you'll be able to click and look at every single one of these scales, but what we're recommending is a change to the way we had been awarding honors credit. So previously, honors credit was differentiated from traditional math credit based on pace of mastering the math objectives. In the classroom, our teachers have done a great job of scaffolding and adding extra projects or going deeper into the content, but it wasn't reflected in our scales the same way that teachers felt like would be best for parents, students, and for colleagues as we were teaching and looking at ways that honors students interact with and apply these mathematical concepts. So the recommendation includes adjustment to what we call the 3.0 level on our scales. And our 3.0 level is end in mind. That's the learning target, essentially. Like that's what we want kids to know and be able to do on each of these topics. So we looked carefully at what that 3.0 level required, and the teachers made some adjustments that require a deeper application of math concepts. So the title of the scales, you'll notice, are the same, but what you see in the end in mind in that 3.0 level is different. This revision does a few things really well. One, it increases consistency. So it's not just reliant upon the teacher to make those decisions in his or her classroom. It allows those teachers to have consistency in the way they're making those decisions. And it also accurately describes what we want students to know and be able to do in order to earn that honors credit. So those are a couple of the improvements that the teachers are excited about. When we get to math 2 and 3, one of the changes, you'll notice a change in numbering. So essentially, we had a separate scale. Scale 123 was for simplifying radicals, and that was procedural knowledge. So that teaches kids like a process, do this, and do this, and do this. And what the teachers recognized was that procedural knowledge that's requisite for right triangle trigonometry. So instead of having it be a separate scale, they took that content and they're adding it into this scale. So because we did that, we took 123 out of a sequence of 130, it just kind of changed the numbers. So that doesn't really change what we're asking kids to know and be able to do. It just asks them to do it in the context of this trig concept. And so we can look at that together. If you want to go into these things, over the next month, we can look at it. This will be posted online too, so other people can have a chance to look at what those recommended changes are. So it results in a change of numbering. There are some 2 and 3 revisions, and those are listed here. These are all hyperlinks as well. So scale 119 is a statistics scale, and you can see what we did. We clarified some wording, we added some vocabulary and more detailed performance tasks. On 121, which is transformation, same sort of thing. Teachers clarified the wording, more specific vocabulary, and outlined some processes, got really clear on how to understand transformations. And then in quadratic functions, we clarify wording again at that 3.0 level, our end in mind, that's the target for all students, and added some specific types of quadratic equations to ensure students can manipulate all of those different kinds. So those were the substantial changes on those 3 scales, which you'll be able to see. This slide is going to be a great reference slide over the next month for anybody who's interested in looking more deeply at the recommended revisions. The first link takes you to what our current math looks like, that first scale that map I showed you, then this is the recommendation for honor scales. You can look at each of those and compare them if you'd like to. And then we have some, the updated scales are listed here. So again, this one just incorporates 1.3 and then we have differences in the 3.0 level. All of those changes would result in a new math curriculum map for Mattoon School District that would incorporate these changes at the high school level. You might notice Honors Math 3 is not in tonight's presentation. They are still working. In fact, I would wager that we have some math teachers probably working on all of this stuff while we're here talking about it. So you can expect additional curricular updates over the course of the year with some math things as well as science. This is a science update for us. So all that to say, our next steps, I'll address any questions we have tonight. Then this month, we have the month to review more deeply, answer any other questions, and then we will request action at the October 4th meeting. Questions, Ashley?
So if we approve it next board meeting, then it'll be in effect.
Absolutely, yes.
This school year.
Yes. And that's why, the motivation of the teachers to work all summer is because they want this for their kids.
For this year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a couple, but I like the idea when you say consistency, right? But not a lot of people do math 2 or math 3, but having that consistency across math classes, like especially switching, right, based on math. Is that a simple question? But is the curriculum K-12, is that consistent? Like first grade gets the same math curriculum, third grade gets the same math curriculum, and then has the content meet the state standard?
Yes.
And that's true for all subject areas.
Yes, right now, well, special ed is a little different because it's based on the individual student plan, but the content that they are supporting is if it's in the core classroom, then they're using that same math. Currently, the board approved consistent curriculum that you'll see online is ELA, so English Language Arts, math, science, social studies, and SEL. Those are the ones that are like that math. We have that big math for. And CTE, most of those classes are taught by a person. So if we don't have like six, and Competence or Christian. So those maps are not as robust as this. These teachers have developed all of those scales, and we would love to have those maps. So we have rough drafts of about a lot of those content areas, and we try to figure out. Last week we were just talking about computer science. Like where does that fit? Does it fit in like a STEAM map? Does it fit in information technology map, or does it fit in our engineering map? So in those instances, because those classes are sometimes called singletons, there isn't the same level of consistency as like 5th grade math, where it's like, okay, these are the core concepts from the Illinois Learning Standards that we want all 5th graders to know.
The consistency part is important, having the curriculum that they need in order to help.
Yeah.
The math's awesome.
Yeah.
Other questions from the board?
Will be like under the work page?
I would guess this is probably included in it.
Yeah, that would be.
We can
We could put it on, we could post it on the district website for people to view if they'd like to do so. Yep.
Well, that's what she said. I just didn't know documents.
Yeah, it would probably fall under documents, but we can, if you want to touch base with them at the end of the meeting, definitely give you a link to that once we can knock that out. I'd have to redirect that to someone in our tech department that knows a little bit more about where
And
that's best
right
to be.
now, all of those maps, like the one that I showed, all of those are available on the curriculum webpage, on the curriculum page or webpage. All the ones, and you can click on any grade level, any one of those, we call them measurement topics, like unit principle. You can click on any of those and you can read exactly what kids are expected to know. Yeah.
Yes, that question exactly. Because I know we were shown at the last meeting or something, the letters that were going to go out from teachers or from schools to parents, are those links, the math links in there? I know the reading, I think all of that stuff was on So parents should probably have gotten it with the links on all the different, like reading, you know, the one that,
Oh.
sample letter that.
So where all of the maps are?
Yeah.
So the teachers didn't put that in their, the teachers didn't put that in their communication where those maps are. I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. You mean like how parents can find where those curriculum maps are?
The question that I had was like my first board meeting.
Yes, like where is this?
Yeah,
We're
where
like
do we
looking
find
around.
this? Yeah.
So those links were not in the letters.
Okay.
So what was in the letters was what teachers were adding to the curriculum if it was like a field trip. I think that was one of the things, field trip. We're having an exhibit into the school. So they were listing out things that were in addition to like that math. So like if a math teacher was going to take the kids to the Fab Lab at U of I, that's not something that is on here. So that's my understanding about the intent of the communication.
What letter I saw, there was a link, like where you could go to the specific curriculum. I mean, it was like.
So I think we're talking maybe two different things a little bit here, but the board adopted curriculum is on. And so it's under the teaching and learning section that Christy just described. The letter that I think you're referring to had to do with field trips or like some activities, as Christy just described, that were outside of the board approved curriculum authority.
No, not an issue, but yes.
Well, feel free.
It is findable, and that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah, if I can clarify.
Yeah.
Anything else?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm certainly not teaching. However, I can show you what it means. Our high school math teachers teach it. They are brilliant and amazing. And let me just show you, because I think this is actually, I'm glad you asked the question, because I think this gives us an opportunity to highlight the things our high schoolers are doing and our high school teachers are teaching. So we have a scale like this for every topic we teach. And so this is the measurement topic. So we're measuring students on transformation, and this 3.0 is our end in mind. So we want students to be able to perform the transformations on geometric figures. For example, when given a figure and a sequence of transformations, sketch the final image of the transformed figure. Include rigid and non-rigid transformations, translations, reflections, rotations, and dilations. So that's one.
Put the figure on a cartesian board.
Yes.
Yes.
Liz is here.
Yeah, we're talking about taking like a geometric shape on the coordinate plane and translating it 5 units up, 3 units left, or reflecting it across the y-axis, or rotating it 90 degrees.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So, yes, so all those 130 topics that you saw on the map, you can get this level of in depth with what students are doing. So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hill. There's nothing on the agenda under unfinished business, which is good
I have
because.
one question on that, and it's not unfinished business. It's just going back to 6.1, first review of the board policy revisions, because remember, I had started to do an email on that, and then I thought, oh no, they're gonna tell us what the changes are tonight. So they're gonna be in your office, or are we gonna get like, these are the highlighted changes?
Yeah,
or-
so in the board packet, the electronic board packet that you received,
Yeah,
it
it's the whole
came,
thing.
yeah, it
Okay.
came with the link that shows the pending adoption of all policies that are included there. There is also a copy outside Callie's desk that is available.
But
for
I don't know
public
which ones were
review.
changes, like here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying.
So are
but
there, I mean.
there's not a list. It's just, it's in its entirety. So
Didn't they used to put like a strike line
there
through it?
there was, but they have not done that with these two press policy issues.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because what you want to know is what are the updates?
Yeah.
Instead
Yeah,
of reading
sure.
300
Can we
pages.
ask
I read it
Comparing.
365 pages the
Yeah.
first time, but I don't know,
Like
like
I
I
said,
said, appears to be
Yes.
flying through it, you could just see.
Let's maybe our administrative team take a look at like
That's a lot.
what it's going to take some
I mean, yeah, I mean, in the sense of like what was old and what is,
Yeah,
you know,
that's what,
recommended changes,
yeah.
but yeah.
That's some clip
Sure,
notes.
yeah.
Cheat sheet.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
New business.
Dale, can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
The discipline report, is that going under unfinished? It's not really an SOP. But I mean, you want to talk about it. Seems like it's unfinished.
You got it.
Yeah, I wanted to talk.
Okay.
I didn't know where you wanted me to.
Yeah. you can talk about it.
In unfinished.
Sure.
Okay, so thank you for the discipline report that we got. I would like to have an open conversation about requiring more information. So basically what the chart shows is you have Riddle's discipline infractions from last year to this year. So there's a number. Compare middle school, compare high school. I would like more. Like that, it's not as helpful. I mean, it's great to see that there's been a decrease or I think after hearing April's presentation today, like suspensions are super important. I don't know how many suspensions we have, but certainly there's a policy that says we are to be given those in the board policy. So one of the things that I think are important, it says in policy 7.2, a summary of the notice, including the reason for the suspension and the suspension length, must be given to the board by the superintendent. I've never received a suspension, and that would be incredibly helpful, part of our policy. So elaborating that chart, if we can, Tim, we include suspensions within the.
Yeah, I guess I would open that up to the.
I mean, it's a policy.
That's what the board would like to see in updated chart. I think that probably speaks to items of standard procedures. But open to hearing what the board would like to receive in order to.
Okay, so can you help me understand why we are not following the board policy?
I mean, I don't believe that we're not following the policy, but the suspensions, just like with any discipline record, are considered an individual student record. Dr. Scosi receives a copy of those from each building after each incident.
Well, due process is administered, legal guardians are communicated with, due process and procedure for the board policy, which are published in the student handbook, which parents receive annually and sign off on every year.
Okay, so the policy says though, if there's a suspension, it must be given to the board by the superintendent. So is that not an accurate
Or
policy?
designee.
Yeah, is that not?
I'm the designee.
So in lieu of us, so can I ask for that?
You can ask that, but that's what is the designee. I'm the hearing officer for the district, the complaint manager, the Title IX coordinator. So any of those things come my way, and we go through the process that's outlined in the board policy that the board has approved, that is in place, that follows the Illinois school code. Clearly.
Was that something a board member?
I think if the board, yes, I mean, again, I think if that's what the board wishes to receive, then yeah, we can have that discussion, and we would just need direction as to what the board wishes to.
And that's what we
to
said
have
last
to do.
month. We were going to talk about that, right? We were going to talk about what, so when we look at truancy, when we look at tardy, like, and I don't want to be demanding. I think this, talking to other board members, this is what they receive. It's different here in Mattoon, but other board members receive a discipline report every single month. And I am very concerned about discipline in the district. And I have zero information. So I would like more information, like suspensions, when we look at the number of students who are in AER, what's the truancy rate for Mattoon? These are things that are important, the themes, the trends, they absolutely affect students' learning.
So can I ask?
Yeah.
So if we get, are you wanting just?
Yeah, I don't need any-
suspensions, you don't want the details?
I'd like to know why.
You'd like to know why.
And this is all reporting that is already done at the school.
Well, Dave gets the information, I understand. So whenever you get that information, what are you planning on doing?
Yeah, I think that's something the board should address. Like if we have it, for example, if we have an increase in suspension, I think that should be something ethically and academically we should be talking about. If somebody says, we have a discipline issue, I can't say yes or no, I don't have any information. If we have concerns within the school district, we have an increase in intake, right, post-COVID, we're seeing that. We should, as a school board, be overseeing. That's why board members should get that information. Just like enrollment, we get an enrollment, what do you do with the enrollment?
But I don't, I guess, I'm just, I take information in and I process, I don't respond quickly, so that's just how I feel. Thank you.
Dr. Scosi, am I correct that we are limited by student confidentiality?
Illinois Student Records Act, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, you would not, that's federal and that's a state act. You would not be able to discuss discipline of any student in a public session. That is against the law for a board member to do and for a board to do. That only can be discussed in closed session with the parent getting formal notification or to do so. And that notice would go out and the legal guardian and or parent would be present for that hearing or the information shared. So I think, if I may interject, if you're just looking for data, number, anonymous stuff that's not identifiable to a student because it cannot be without consent of a legal guardian, and it shouldn't be. Every parent, every student has that right to privacy for that. We have to protect that. But if you're just looking for data, numbers, information, incidents to report, to look to trend data, that's doable. We have data systems that do that.
I mean, it's already done.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
we have data
you would just
systems
be
that do that.
sharing
Well,
data that you already
Yeah,
collected.
you're just not looking for specific,
No.
and anything of that nature, again, has to go in closed session. Even when a parent would come up and talk about student discipline in an open session, you shouldn't, I can't tell you what to do individually. I tell you, you should never respond to that. You should never respond to that outside as an individual board member in the public about a student matter, because that is not legal as well.
Dr. Scosi, the reason I asked the question is because Heidi, you said maybe the reason for the suspension, and the problem is the more detailed you get, the more easy it is to identify that student, the more danger you are in then violating the law and exposing the district to liability. So
yeah, I think getting data points and looking at data trends with discipline, that's fine. We do it in our buildings. We just need to put together a district sheet for that, data sheet.
I'm kind of going with, like you said, so I looked up suspension procedure policy, 7.2. In number 5 and 7.2, number 5, it does say a summary of the notice, including the reason for the suspension must be given to the board by the superintendent. So is that probably what you put up in? And then upon request of the parents or guardians, a review of the suspension shall be conducted by the board. So that's even suspensions, not expulsion.
Yeah, if they're going through the chain of command, they've met with the assistant principal or the dean, assistant principal, and then they want to question the suspension. That's the process they go through. That comes before the board in requesting a hearing for the board, and that's in closed session.
So I think what you're saying is that we would probably get a summary of the notice, including the reason for the suspension. Heidi, is that what you were?
Yeah, or let's say, for example, we have 11 suspensions for vaping.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I would like to have a closed session. I think we have a problem. We need to talk about it. As a board member, understanding the discipline in your buildings and in your district is vital. I think it's incredibly important. And I would like, we get a great enrollment report, but we don't get anything on discipline. So I think expanding the information you gave this month to include suspensions. Do we have 5 suspended? Do we have 18 suspended? How many are going to Bridges? And the other parts are like when we look at truancy, party, like just some of those discipline trends for me personally, because I think it dovetails back in.
I will say once again, understanding the board policy references reason for suspension, I think we need to be very, very careful about that. A blanket requirement of disclosing the reason could absolutely mean we're identifying the student. And I think that would be the wrong thing to do. we may need to change, well, thank you, because I don't want to say it, but we may need to revisit that board policy, or at least what our interpretation, be clear on what our interpretation of what that means actually is.
I agree. I think
Okay.
It could have prevented a miscommunication in this evening's scenario that would have been involved.
Is it possible then that you could find out, I know you all meet as superintendents, what do other districts share for districts?
Sure. And if you have something that you found, please feel free to share that as well.
Okay. Item 9. Board protocols or standard operating procedures. If the board members will recall, last month, we intended on starting this conversation in earnest last month. I can say for one, excuse the pun, we're sitting in elementary school. I had not done my homework. I'm not sure everyone else had either. But insofar as having the current board protocols, or now we're calling them standard operating procedures, in front of you, I hope everyone has that and has had a chance to review those. I think last month also I suggested that this month we would talk about your thoughts on the current protocols next month and edits to those. Next month would be the conversation on new provisions for the protocols. That's what we talked about last month. So given that, I hope everyone's got a copy of the current ones in front of them. You don't? Then okay. I am going to I'm going to start down the list. And I'm looking at the 21, the board protocols that were adopted in 2021. The first category is placing items on the agenda. The board president and superintendent confer via phone regarding agenda items for inclusion on the Tuesday preceding the board meeting when the agenda will be utilized. Conversations, suggestions, I'm not going to read everyone. Just realize that's so dot point number 1 under placing items on the agenda. Thoughts on changes?
I think maybe all requests should begin before you and Superintendent Conrad speak. Just have a clear idea on why there's one.
Okay, so as I read this, the Tuesday preceding the Tuesday, yeah, we usually call it this, but this is a week before. So what you're saying is, I mean, later in this section, there is a protocol regarding when a board member must submit a request to have something put. It's also, and that's a week also. Okay, so it's the same day. So you're saying you think the requirement to get something in should be earlier than
Like Monday before you guys
Yeah,
talk
like
on Tuesday.
If you guys are talking on Tuesday, I feel like things should probably be
You should have everything.
in your pocket. Hey, Heidi and John want to speak about this. Ashley and Aaron want to speak about this.
Okay. So what you're talking about now is the third dot point. You're wanting to move, the phrase says no later than 1 week prior to the board meeting. You want to move that earlier than 1 week. A week and a day?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we
just here.
leave it a week and just try to do our best to do it 8 days before?
I mean, I think it needs to be in writing though. If we're gonna,
I kind of like having.
because if they're talking, we don't know what time you guys are talking, unless you guys set a time. We're gonna be talking at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, so all requests have to be in before then. Then I would find with the Tuesday, a 1 week, because we don't know when they talk.
Well,
With Dale's schedule and Tim's and stuff like that, they may not be able to, they may have to talk at 7:30 in the morning. And if you're putting Tuesday at 10 o'clock, they're not gonna have a clue that that's what you want to
It just
add.
covers no matter when they speak on Tuesday. It's that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have them in earlier just because, to Ashley's point, I mean, sometimes we talk earlier than Tuesday. It depends on his schedule, depends on my schedule, and we talk several times, I mean, about 2 or 3 times a week. And so it's not just like there's this hard appointment Tuesday at noon where Tim and Dale talk for 45 minutes about, it doesn't work that way. I mean, their schedules don't work that way. So I would prefer having it in before, I mean, at least a day before, but I mean, we need to hear from the rest of them.
So you are gonna have more than one discussion, or you may have more. I would not support setting it for requiring that you also, because anything can happen if they take care of that. I don't think that adding a day, but since we're on this point, I'm just no suggestion that I made, because I think we have should in there something that, and we also in there have that the superintendent is the. So I don't think that we should relegate it, because what if they're in person? We also talk about how the agenda is distributed. I think we can offer them electronic, but where we say a board member should or a superintendent should, I think those things should be changed to staff. When we leave it subjective, that to me is fair. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to organize these.
I can be sent.
Does it? But not everyone has that.
No, I can send it to everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So other input on the idea of when a board member needs to have a request for something put on the agenda to the superintendent and the board president. Considering that we typically do talk around a week before, but it's usually earlier than that.
Yeah, so I guess just for clarity as to that time, it's 5 days when the board has requested that they receive their packets. So in order to get information out, that agenda needs to be set pretty typically by that Wednesday before board packets go out. That make sense. And so if the board wishes to keep it that Tuesday, or if the board wishes to make it that Monday, that request comes to Dale and myself, I think as long as there's time, if we can make that any adjustment that we need to by that Thursday. Go out. So I'm just saying from a management perspective, it has been accomplished with what currently exists. If the board wishes to make it an additional day to meet that deadline, I think it would further assist.
One prior.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're managing it. I mean,
That's fine.
I think. Okay. I'm gonna help Kelly out.
So it sounds like we've got a week, and it sounds like we've got a week and a day. Right.
Okay. I guess, do we want to vote on these things? Or we take notes, compile changes, and then put together a document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
next month we
Be here till midnight.
Yeah.
Be here when we get this. Okay. Dot point number 2, the superintendent crafts the agenda and is distributed to the full board electronically. I just said it wasn't. But Erica, you have a proposed change on this.
I just suggested that it be either electronic.
Isn't it sent? Don't we send it hard?
We do at the request, but we have 4 that go out electronically, 3 that are requested hard copy. So I guess that protocol
let's
exists.
say we could say as board member instead of electronic.
Which would be, that's the current practice. That's the current practice.
Exactly.
So we want to change the protocol.
So as
Okay.
board member request.
Okay.
That, okay?
Okay, we've talked about the deadline for requests for inclusion into the agenda. For all requested items for agenda consideration discussed with.
Are there any other issues with the agenda?
Yeah.
Higher level?
Sorry.
You're all right. I'm
Right,
I mean, if there are. we'd
Plow
like
this
to
ground
know.
4 times.
Okay, so the one thing with the agenda thing is I'd like to have some, I was just thinking about, it talks about it placed on the agenda, but we don't have anything like for business specific. I feel like that needs to be kind of, that wordage, I think, needs to be involved in there because we have had several agenda items be presented and there's, I feel like that needs to be on the agenda from the get-go, not after we're here with that. Does that make sense? I don't know. I have a suggestion. You do? Okay, what's your?
Please excuse me, but I have lots of suggestions from the.
Just speak up.
I'm sorry?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay. So my suggestion as it relates to. Say it again?
We can hear you, they're the quiet ones.
My suggestion as it relates to new business, that a board member will talk to other board members first. So that we're not hearing it here because some things cannot be discussed here. But I think it would be a better practice to communicate with each other because we can do that individually before we come into a board meeting.
You read what you've written. Sure. Thank you. I'm having trouble.
Hi, my name is Erica, I'm a Virgo. My suggestion was, I said, when an item is not placed on the agenda, when an item, when the requesting member has new business, that they discuss it, and I put shall, the item with the board members before attempting to discuss it in a meeting. I also added that if someone does not discuss it with board members and they attempt to discuss it in the meeting, that be considered out of order.
I disagree with that.
That's okay. I expected.
Maybe.
Don't we have to be careful on this new business though, that we're not adding agenda items? If somebody says, well, I didn't get this in on the new agenda in time, but let's discuss it under new business.
Okay, so the law allows us to talk about things that are not on the agenda. It does not allow us to vote on things that are not on the agenda.
That's why it's there.
So, Erica, you want to share more about why you think we should do that? Heidi, if you object, then, let's speak up here.
So I make that suggestion because I think that we are supposed to operate as a unit of 7. When we are trying to get business done in this district, we should be communicating with each other. So it is pointless if I come into this meeting and I say, well, I talked to my cat and my dog about what happened, but I didn't give my board members the same consideration. I should be able to reach out, just like I said, I'll send these notes because our agreement was that we would send notes to the board president and he would then distribute them. But I don't think he got any other notes. So I took that opportunity before just talking about it to send it to every person up here that has their laptop. That's how we should be working together. Whether we agree or not is not the point. We should be able to communicate with each other. And that doesn't happen. So it looks very contentious when we come into our meetings and we start talking about individual things that we haven't discussed with each other. And then we don't have any communication for 30 days. And then we come back to have the same discussion over again. Whether we agree or not, we should be effective. And to be effective, we have to communicate.
What's the objection to that?
That the purpose of the new business on the
So the purpose of the new business on the agenda is if you don't get an item in within 8 days or 7 days, or I have something that I would like to discuss, it is that. And it is my First Amendment right to bring that into the meeting to have that discussion.
What was your objection to what I said about communicating with them? Because I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm not saying that we're not.
Well, you said, or you shall not discuss it. That's what you said.
I said that you should communicate with your board members. What's the objection to that?
I don't have any objection to discuss, but you're not gonna limit what I put on new business.
That's not limiting, that's having a discussion. And I feel like, let's just talk about it. You fail to hear us, right? So when I say to you, I want us to communicate, you say you're trying to control what I say. No,
Okay, so read what you have there again.
it's on your email.
Considered out of order and no longer recognized for discussion.
Okay, that's not what.
It's not control.
Members,
We're talking
please.
about standard operating procedure,
It-
right?
we're
And
talking
there's
about
a reason for that.
Thank you. We're fine.
Because there's a way to manage things. And primarily, this board is about governance, not management. We don't go into the spaces and take over. We are about governance. And we're not governing because we're not communicating. And I don't know what the objection is to communicating with the other people on this board.
Okay, Erica, I want to make sure that I understand what you're suggesting. I'm reading, members should make good faith efforts to communicate with board members before introducing specific topics for discussion during. That's what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't see or you shall not speak, or.
No, that is on there.
Is it?
That's on there. It's under
one D.
It's there. And I acknowledge it is there. Because very similar to what Kelsey just said, when we make a request and our item is not added to the agenda, we should not go around that by then forcing the discussion in a public meeting. There should be operating procedures, because a lot of what we've talked about is holding people accountable, right? Making sure we're consistent, having ethics, being transparent. And when we have a board that doesn't adhere, being transparent and accountable, that is not effective.
So you're referring, okay. So you're referring to if say I sent a request to have something put on the agenda and Tim and Dale said no, it would be like, you're saying I should not then come and present it in new business. Okay, that's what I thought I heard. I just wanted to
And before this is taken out of context, I've asked for things that were not added and the discussion wasn't had.
Sure.
Did I like it? No. Will I continue to have the discussion with our board president and our superintendent? I absolutely will. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. But I am not gonna force the discussion here, because then it looks like we're just being contentious and we can't get along. We don't hang out. I can assure you, I don't. I go home. But there's a way to do the business of this. And for us to not be able to agree on some policies and procedures is asinine to me,
So you're asking for no surprises.
which is what we agreed to in
Yes.
2021. Sure, you weren't here, so, but we met in 2021, and that's how we came up with that.
So I don't like to be surprised at meetings either. I mean, it's quite frankly, it's counterproductive. It's harder to have an informed discussion. It's like going to a meeting and you either have the agenda before the meeting or you don't have the agenda before the meeting. You're gonna have a more informed conversation if you've got a heads up that that's what's gonna be, that someone's gonna raise it. I think not allowing a member to talk is problematic. So, but it is equally problematic to me to not be willing to make a good faith effort to communicate to your fellow board members, hey, I requested this item be put on the agenda. It's not on the agenda. I want to give you a heads up. I'm going to raise this under new business. Hey, everyone can do that. I think that's a reasonable middle ground here. It avoids the surprises, but it also doesn't muzzle the member. Thoughts?
I think the assumption is that what I may have brought into new business was not accepted on the agenda, and that's not the case. To me, a new business item is something that is worthy of discussing, introducing, and then we can decide if we want to add it to the agenda.
Okay, I don't want to be, wait, I want to be clear. I'm not conditioning that on if you asked to put it on the agenda and you were told no. If you're going to raise an issue that's not on the agenda under new business, then you are obliged to make a good faith effort to communicate that to the fellow board members so they're not surprised, in hopes that we have a more informed discussion. So you're okay with that?
Yes, because that was my suggestion. Let me be very.
It was
clear.
her
That's not an assumption about your, I mean, that you added today. This was written over a week ago. I did not sit here and type all of this just now. So it had nothing to do with what you presented. This is what I suggested as a result of looking at what we looked at in 2020. So I didn't make any assumptions. I looked through this and made informed and responsible recommendations. And we're not voting on them today, but that's what I have. If you have recommendations, please send them to me.
So is there any way that we could officially have them listed under new business? You know, like you could, before they send out the agenda, that way we kind of know, 5 days in advance? Or are we just gonna, good faith effort, just you let us know so that way, I guess I just didn't know if it'd be in writing or if it would just be emailing us individually.
My suggestion was for everyone, not just for one person. It was for everyone.
I mean, if anybody, I'm just good. I'm sorry, I didn't single you out. I just mean if anybody has any new agenda that would like business.
I mean, the board member requesting that issue, whatever it is, be placed under new business, I mean, is the responsible thing to do, because then not only are your fellow board members advised of what the topic would be, you're advising the public. And to me, that aids the cause of transparency. So,
So like, here's an example. So we've talked about discipline for several months. I wanted to discuss it, and we all said we would discuss it today. It's nowhere on the agenda. Do I not bring it up under unfinished business? Or can we just let it go? I mean, this is the process that I'm struggling with, that I have no problem communicating beforehand. But I am not going to be silenced my First Amendment right to say anything that I want to say, including adding something under new business, which is the intent of having that on an agenda. But yes, communicate. Say it again.
Did you hear anything that I said?
I heard you. You said if you don't put it under new business, it shall not be discussed.
You didn't hear the rest of it. That's okay. We can move along. We can add it and we can vote on it next.
is there anything else under placing items on the agenda that members wanted to change from what is in the current protocols? Cheryl, anything? Eric? Erica? No. There. Okay. Second category, asking questions about upcoming agenda items. Board member with a question about upcoming agenda item should contact the superintendent prior to the board meeting when the agenda will be released. Okay. That's the idea behind that, as I understand it, is, again, the ability to communicate ahead of time to provide for a more informed conversation. Does anyone have a problem with the wording of that? Does anyone want to change it? Eric?
I suggested that we change should to shall.
Good. I actually think it should be worded more strongly than it is, Erica. I agree with that. We probably need to allow for instances where that's just can't be done for whatever reason.
We can say good faith efforts, but again, where we leave things open to interpretation, we're not going to act. And we're not going to agree on any consequences. And if we're not going to agree on consequences, we're not going to hold ourselves accountable, then my question is going to continue to be, why are we doing this right now? Because we have a lot of people here watching us talk about this, and if we're not going to be sincere and responsible, it's kind of a waste of time.
What about just adding in the sentence to allow for any research that's
Now he's taking notes, we can revisit it and see what we agree on.
you said that your opinion of it was to make a more decision. So why don't we just put that in there that, to allow for more research in that area, in that respect.
Well,
Are you asking Dale or are you asking, I wasn't sure.
I'm asking.
Okay.
so Erica, you would like to insert,
I just wanna
rather than
change
should contact, will make a good faith effort to contact.
No,
Is it
my
right?
recommendation is shall.
Shall. Okay. Anybody else? Comments on that?
Is there going to be a time frame added to that at all? It'd be I know it says prior to the. Because we don't want to.
I don't think we all read it at the same, you know, like, I might read mine on Friday.
I just didn't want him to be bombarded the day of the meeting to try to answer questions. Is where I was coming from. Because I think that should be answered.
It's not been an issue personally.
Okay, all right.
So,
Okay.
up to the board, what they would like to do with that, but because
But I think the more flexible we can make some of these, I mean, I have a day job, I have kids, I mean, I don't want to be pigeonholed when I try to respect your time, Tim, and don't avoid it by waiting to the last minute. But purpose of this is to be able to ask clarification, to get the information, and the more we continue to restrict and confine, I think it's going to be difficult for us as board members.
Well, I was just asking because I didn't know if people were waiting. Because I don't wait too long. So I was just, and he clarified this is not a problem.
John?
Yeah.
Next item, communicating with members. A board member desiring to communicate with board members on the Manchester School District Number 2 Board of Education should adhere to the Open Meetings Act. I'm hopeful there's no objection to that. Next, communicating with staff. A board member desiring to communicate with staff should contact the superintendent. Okay. The idea here being that the superintendent is the CEO of the district and the request for information and information coming back out should flow through him. I'm assuming that's the rationale.
you know, I did not review the executive session tapes that came out of this, because this actually was completed during 2, I think, separate executive sessions. So I don't recall the full context out of that, but I would presume that
That was the discussion. But you skipped over one of my suggestions. Which was?
I didn't. I just
No,
was reading what was in play.
I know, but just that we would make a good faith effort to communicate before the meeting. So I know you mentioned the Open Meetings Act. I added that we would make before meeting. And this is no surprise. When it comes to communicating with staff, I recommend changing to staff. Again, we are governance. We are not the manager. And if in a space that makes sense, your board of directors does not go into your job and your personal office to ask you things. They go through your CEO or your university president. They don't just walk into your space. This is not about restricting the board's ability to do what it does. It is about doing it properly. And I think that there is a misconception to how the board is supposed to function. We are governance. We are governance. He is the superintendent. And the staff responds to him. It is dysfunctional to go to a staff member, administrator, or a faculty member, and put them in the position of having to make a decision on whether or not they respond to us immediately or communicate with the superintendent. We have to do better.
I think for purposes of allowing the superintendent to be aware of the inquiries that are coming from the board, I actually think this should be a challenge.
I've worked in the school district for a long time, and I know a lot of. I don't know how, I mean, I can't go through Tim every time I want. I mean, I don't know what the ramifications. I mean, I guess I don't know what the parameters are. But I do talk to staff, and I mean,
If you look at section 4 of my notes, I actually made a suggestion on that communication. Because so to what I'm saying, I am not saying that I.
Well,
think
you
that
don't
can't
have
have
informal, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not, I think we're talking about board materials and additional information. I think a really good example in our last meeting, there was a really big discussion about whether or not everyone was getting information. But the problem was that 2 of the requests were sent directly to Mr. Gear. So the superintendent didn't know. So he can't send that out to everyone if he doesn't know that there's been an additional request. And when that additional request was made, other board members didn't know. But he's in a position where he's responding to board members. That request should be submitted to the superintendent, and then everyone's getting the same information. That's why we agreed to share it in the first place. And Mr. Gear doesn't feel like he has to decide whether he has to respond or call the superintendent. Like,
Yeah, I think the clarity behind the information or the request for additional information comes to the board president and to the superintendent. I think we all agreed to that back in July meetings. I think that adds for the, I guess, to support Erica's statement, that then I can delegate to who needs to respond to that question. So I think that hopefully that's clarified that, corrected it.
I mean, because I know that was my question. I did send it to applications, but then
Sure.
Ryan responded to it first.
Well, and I think.
Well,
I think-
yeah, there is, and that's what we get. So we don't know who we're responding to when we, now it's starting to come up, I think, sometimes Dave and
Sure.
Ryan all get it. So I didn't know who I was responding.
So I think, to your second question about, or to your initial question about, you have relationships with people in the district. I think I believe the intention behind these protocols, if a board member is acting in the role of a board member, then it would need to come through the channel to the superintendent. The board member is acting in the role of a friend, to communicate with me, to
Well, and then
talk with
teachers
Gary.
do talk to us about her.
Sure.
I mean, so, yeah.
Sure. And then I guess that is where I would ask that the board then share those concerns with the board president and the superintendent if you're hearing that through your friendship or your relationship.
So with you saying that, should that be a SOP for us, that we communicate questions that are fielded to the president? Or is that in, it's back here, wait, I heard this. Back here on the back. It talks about- Yes, there is. We'll get to that, sorry, I jumped.
Cheryl, did what Tim say about acting in the capacity as a board member, does that help draw a line for you?
I mean, it's clear in my mind, I'm not gonna go in and talk to somebody and say, well, as a board member, I'm telling you, yeah.
Right.
But I don't want it to be said that you can't go in and talk to teachers, because
And my goal is to build relationships with them. I mean, I have them as my children have them as their staff. Sometimes they're a coach, sometimes they're people that I connect with the Bionic program. I'm absolutely having relationships with teachers. That is incredibly important to me. If it is a district concern, absolutely, I will call you and address the an issue here. So I 100% agree with you, Cheryl. I think part of our role as a board member is to have relationships with people that we represent.
And those on the board, 2021, that this came up, I think this came through the intention of just no surprises for board members, those prizes for grade 15. I think that was the true intention. Please correct me if recollection is accurate.
Some of it was related to going into building. Again, I'm gonna repeat this because I know I said it. I am not talking about and when I say I'm not, my recommendation is not that we can't have communication with people in the community and the district. Because several of us have had children in the schools, we know them, we have them friends on our Facebook pages. We don't walk around in a silo and not communicate with our faculty, our staff, our parents. But when we are asking for additional things, then we should be making those requests. So if you are just talking to someone and then you think, oh, I would really love to see your lesson. But let me go ahead and send that to the superintendent, right? Because we don't want to make those exchanges and he has no idea that we've been requesting additional. I'm talking about structuring how we get additional information. I'm not saying that we don't talk to people. That it's not that complicated to just communicate with people, but also be responsible because even though we want to divide our friend and board member, at the end of the day, we have responsibility. And even when people talk to me that I know and I have respect, and they ask me a question, I always stop. I still have to remember that I am a board, which means I'm accountable for what I say. I am accountable for what I say, even as your friend deals with the matters of the. And if I want additional things for them, then I should say, okay, I need to make that request through the superintendent. And I don't think that that's a difficult thing. I think we're making it more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah, I walked around Williams, the chiller was out. I spoke to Superintendent Condren, forwarded on to Principal Schaefer. And then I walked around the school and introduced myself to several of the teachers. I didn't have a list of all the teachers that I spoke to, just introduced myself by party, but none of the issues raised to the point of concern that I need to contact. I think that's what we're trying to say, right? It comes to a level of concern that the two superintendent and president should be apprised that we need to forward that on. If it's just a small talk conversation, that's the way I.
Good thing is we'll get replay.
I'm going to our patient. We didn't talk about this here, but it's on. Okay.
Visiting the campus. Thoughts on the current language? Desires to change the current language? Erica?
Recommended shall. It says.
As opposed to should?
Yeah.
Okay. Two of them, right?
Yes.
Okay. Should contact the superintendent and should adhere to district building security is shall and shall, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thoughts? Anybody? You okay with that, Cheryl? Gary? Yeah. You? Okay. Responding to concerns. You want to highlight, I'm sorry, the purple page with that. Is that what? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Is that all it says?
Yeah.
Is there anything more to elaborate on that?
I mean, there's just a chain of command. It's, if board members receive a complaint or a concern, just start with the building first. Basically, with that board.
You, I think that's something. Oh, no, that's very nice, thank you. Any thoughts, changes to this?
I just added before instead of work that you should exercise the gym.
Okay, explain to me, Erica, where that change is.
So, I think I added it after chain of command, did it not introduce board meeting, so it should not be the first time that a superintendent and or a board member hears about it in the board meeting, that we should contact or refer or go through the chain and then address them.
Prior to talking about it at a board meeting.
Prior to communication.
Okay, thoughts? I agree. I mean, honestly, if you're trying to solve the problem, I mean, you're gonna wait 2 weeks till we have a board meeting to talk about it, or you're going to refer to the chain of command. I mean, if you're trying to help, if you're actually trying to help the person solve the problem, it seems to me that you're going to direct them in the, what we call the chain of command before talking about it. Gary, thoughts on that? You disagree with that? I do. Good. Okay. All right. Eric has changed it though. Email. Acknowledgement of the concerned citizen for the citizen with appropriate district communications for the citizen and forward the email to the superintendent. That's emails. Now this refers to emails the board members receive. Right? Okay. Thoughts on changes to that, Erica?
I didn't have anything in there, but I did have a thought. Because sometimes we get stuff through Facebook, right? So I am just thinking that let's not relegate that just to me. I've had people send me Facebook messages, I've had people text me, and I think we should just encompass when there's an issue. Any communication, right? I've had people walk up to me at a store. But in this instance, yes, any electronic communication, whether it be Facebook or
electronic or
yeah.
Communicating with the media. One want to change anything on there? Communicating with the public. Everybody good there?
Here's a question.
Yes.
When we say communication, and I will ask this because of the prior question, we're not saying just in regular account, right?
No, guys.
So when we say communicating with the public, what would you like that to say? To be more effective, right? The intent, I think the intent, as I recall it from that meeting, was very similar to the communication. It's like in terms of making a statement on behalf of the district. Those statements should come out from the superintendent. But not saying that we can't engage people in a public space. Just
okay.
So I think they're one and the same.
I think those two categories are basically the same.
Yeah, they're probably the same.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any changes to orienting new members? Carol, you're the news member. Would you like to comment?
I know, that just struck me as funny at the moment. No, you've all done a wonderful job, so I can say that has worked out very well.
Conducting closed sessions. What is discussed / shared in closed session stays in closed session. Right. Here. Right. We're good? No issues. Everybody good? Okay. participating during public forum. Follow board policy.
We need to.
We need to circle back. Did I skip over one?
No.
All right.
Penny brought up a good point that, and I think it goes under communicating with members. Would you say that's where you'd like to have that, about the
Oh, the email
emails?
conversation.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit about how we're gonna communicate our questions to the administration via email is one option, right? And that we have a copy. I'd like to use the blind copy because sometimes I'm left out or I don't know what people are being sent. So I think the blind copy might be an option. And then I don't understand why we don't have our names on it. Like if you're asking a question, why is it there's 7 of us and we're talking about being transparent and we should be hearing the questions. Why are we not including names? That's me.
I'm curious, the one, what was that for?
I think you're suggesting when it responded back, it's just blind copy, is that what?
Yeah, this way we can all be on it and we're not gonna violate the OMA.
Yeah, I think the only, yeah.
So I'm gonna say that I think it's probably, and that's because if it's BCC, then people aren't responding to it. And to manage how we communicate and stay adherent to the Open Meetings Act, that is one of the reasons why that changed. Because sometimes people will respond, and instead of hitting respond directly to the superintendent, sometimes they would hit respond. And at that point, and I'm just talking about what I recall, then we went to a different form of email communications to avoid that. So I will say this, if we decide to send it to everyone, please send mine separately, which I've made that request before because I don't want to be involved in an email chain that is not adherent. So I don't want to be, I'm saying, I don't want to be on all 7 members.
Well, the question is that when the email is sent out, like I'm not seeing what you're receiving. And then sometimes like somebody's left out. So I'm trying to figure out how do we send the questions via email to all of us, and you could do it without violating something. So that we all receive exactly the same email and there's no changes.
I'd love that. So we could have-
I don't have an objection to that as long as we get a legal counsel to sign off on that.
Sure.
I have a question, because that's what we get when we get the calendar, you guys, we get, and that's what it says in the handbook, to contact the board, this is how you do it, that patient, so is that
That's
violating-
incoming, that is not, that's not regulated by the OMA. So someone here could send us an email and copy all 7 of us, that's not a violation.
Right, can we then send a question via that patient to the board? That's what I'm asking.
To the board?
Yeah, to the other board member.
Technically, yes, it's not a violation.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Because that's going to the administration.
It's only going to the administration. Oh, but then you.
That's what
send
keeps it
out.
from being a violation.
Okay, just then you send it out. Yeah, I don't know how the matching communications
Yeah,
work. So somebody sends it to matching communications, then you send it to us.
So
Is that right?
so
Okay.
so Katie and Callie both have access to receive emails to Matthew Communications, or Communications Department receives those. They are also the ones that I asked to push out those emails forward. So that's ultimately who, I'm the one that's generating or organizing the responses to questions and asking them to then send us forward separate. So that's the process. Yes, you can. I guess, you know, I don't mean to split hairs with this, but I think we agreed previously that if an individual board member has questions, to send them to the board president and to the superintendent is at the same time is the best mode of asking those questions, just because if they go to Matching Communications, then they're usually sent to me and or our team, and then I have to forward them on. So like, I would just encourage the board to stick with that process if they would consider doing that. makes it cleaner. Since the board president, I address those.
Can you clarify, are you saying that you don't want to use the blind copy of?
I'm just saying, if we can send one email that we all receive the same information based on the response from Tim or Dale through the blind copy, then we're all receiving the same information. Because currently, I ask a question, it is sent, they answer it, and they send each of you individually, and I don't know what you received. Because I don't get that. So I get the separate one.
So do you think we get something different?
Well, I'm just saying, like, we should all get the same email. Why is
We
it?
do, we get the email at the same time, but your response is the same. I guess I trust him, I trust him that he's sending me the same thing that he sent you. I wouldn't think he would ever give me a different answer than what
You
he
can
did
see
you.
Kelly sent emails if you'd like to see
And we
that.
only get the question and the answer, we don't get the full text. So,
But that's what I'm saying, like, I don't see what you get. So in mine, it's my email, for example, like the question, Tim or Dale's response, and it sent to me. So I didn't even know you were getting the answers, right?
but we agreed on that as a board. We agreed that if any board member, so if I said, hey, Tim, is that true? And he said, yes, we didn't worry about that. What we agreed on was if a board member requests additional information, that information would be provided to all board members. So it's a little bit difficult for me when you say you didn't know that, because that's what we agreed to as of 2021.
Exactly, so in June, this is my point, Erica. I could say, have you not listened to me? But
what did you say?
2 years, I'm not receiving these communications. I mean, I said it last month, 2 months, I haven't received anything.
So I think that's probably where assumption would be good. You're assuming that all of our questions is a request for additional information. We didn't say that every email communication would be shared. We agreed as a board where a member requests additional information. So if I call and say, hey, I'm looking at this and I just don't get it. I need more information. We agreed that additional information would be shared. We're not all asking for additional information. Reasonably so. We don't all have the same question. And perhaps we asked for some of those things before. But I feel like we're getting something different, or we're doing something different, or there's a silo for us that you're not in. That is not the case.
Well, I just showed you today.
You
said last month, you asked you asked questions and you said it was shared. I know other members got it. I literally looked in my email, let me finish. I literally looked in my email. I did not have any questions.
You do have it, you just don't know where it is. And here's the problem, because you
No, are you serious?
No, I'm very serious. Because I sent it to Dale, and I said that to you tonight. And he responded and said, this was a question, and he gave the answer. And instead of you asking me, okay, I reached out to Tim, and I don't know what he said he didn't know what you're talking about. Had you asked me that question, Heidi, you'd have had this answer a month ago. But instead, you keep pounding on it right now, trying to make it something that it's not. I didn't ask, and let me just tell you what's really interesting about the question that I'm talking about. My question actually was, can you tell me what Heidi was talking about that day when she said blah, blah, blah? Instead of him saying, Heidi, Erica has a question about what you said, he was actually very liberal and said, here's a question that came up. I just want to remind board members, blah, blah, blah. And I said, that was satisfactory to me. But you didn't ask me what my question was. You didn't call me after you reached out to Tim. Did you call me?
I asked you twice.
Did you call me after you checked with Tim?
I don't even have your number.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You talked to me before you ran for board the first time. You just pretend like you don't know now. And that's okay, but you have my email. You have my email. We all have each other's email address. Did you email me?
Okay, you know what, can I make a suggestion here? There's no way, there's no way that we're gonna have an agreement here. So let's refocus on the issue of whether or not we can use a blind courtesy copy to send out the inquiries and the responses. I'm fine with that as long as we get an opinion from an attorney that it steers completely clear of the Open Meetings Act. Does anyone have an objection to that?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, we kind of need to give, you can see, we kind of need to bring this in. But exactly, so we're going to try and finish. Thank you, though. I appreciate your understanding. Does anyone have an objection to that procedure, as long as we get the sign off from the lawyer? Outstanding. Okay,
And can we qualify why we don't have a name that's attached to the questions that we ask as board members?
So do we want to pose the question or pose, do we want it in written? Names will be included, or do we pose the question? Do we want that in writing? Is that what you're asking?
And Cheryl asked this question, here's the information. Heidi asked this question, here's the information. How come we don't do that? I don't understand. Like, that was the modality and then we switched.
Well, I think your clarification around that is like, if that's what the board would like to see, that's fine, but we just were, I mean, this past month, we've received more questions than this administrative team has received probably 10 years. So I understand what you're asking, but I think it's just a clarification around, does the board wish to know which board member's asking, or does the board just wish for that information to be shared?
is that what you want? You want the name attached?
I think you do.
Okay, around the room, please. Do you have a problem? I'm just trying to, okay, let's just finish the conversation. What's that?
We're not voting on it.
We're not, I'm just taking an informal poll here. Do you have a problem with your name being attached to the inquiry that you send, that gets sent to everybody else? Gary, you have a problem with that?
I don't care either way.
Okay. Erica? You care either way?
I think it's pointless, but whatever.
Okay.
I don't care.
All right, then
I just need direction before, thanks.
let's put the names on. All right.
All right.
And any question that is asking for additional information is sent to the entire board. And all questions that are asking additional information are emailed.
Okay. Is there anything else with regards to this chapter of the standard operating procedure conversation? Okay, the board is going to go into closed session to talk about a number of things. It's my understanding when we come back out, there will be no votes. There'll be no final action. The only roll call that'll be taken will be to adjourn the meeting. So I'm assuming that most, if not all of you, want to call it a night at 9:26 p.m. Before you go, for the very small handful of Williams Elementary personnel still left, I want to say thank you again. It was tremendous. I know all the kiddos are at home finishing up their homework and whatever, but I enjoyed, even though it's 9:25, I enjoyed this board meeting more than I have any other board meeting. And it was because of the students. So thank you guys again. Okay. Rick, you guys want to take like 5 minute break? Okay, but please, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, please. Oh, we gotta adjourn the public. I'm sorry. Sorry. Motion to adjourn.
You need to read this. You need to read number 2. You need to read number 2.
Okay. I want to. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the board to go into executive session, discuss matters pertaining to safety and security plans, matters pertaining to individual students, and matters pertaining to purchase, lease, or sale of property. Motion. Erica and Cheryl. Okay. Holden.
Favor? Yes. Hedges? Yes. Kathleen? Yes. Armstrong? Larson? Yes. Overton? Yes.
Yes. 5 minutes, guys, please. Where we at?
We're in the conference room of the office.
Okay.